continue with the Remember When series here on Cable Channel 15 TV and cable15tv.com. Always a great pleasure to get to visit with my good friend John G. Pennington from George Kell Motor Company. And John, thank you guys so much for being the lead sponsor and sponsoring this program. It has been a tremendous hit.
Yeah, it has.
Thank you guys for being the sponsor.
Well, it's neat, and when you get those guys like John Miner, who got one of my all-time heroes, and Marvin Thaxton and Dr. Wright and my dad, and some of those guys who really were the greatest generation who did what they did and came back and just went back to work and business as usual. What a great generation. And it's fun to listen to some of those things they recount before, you and I were born.
Right.
And as we move along, those things get dimmer and dimmer. And I think there's like 1,500 veterans, World War II veterans, dying every day. So it's a blessing to have those people that they're able to remember. My dad's got he doesn't see well, as you know, but boy, he sure can remember everything. He sure can.
It's been a good program, and we appreciate all the comments that we've had, and then we want to talk a little car business at George Kell Motor Company, and boy, it's just a lot of fun and a lot of activity each and every day. When you drive by the dealership, something's going on out there. Yeah. Something's going on daily. You guys are doing it right. You're getting folks in. You're putting automobiles on the road. You're taking care of folks at George Kell Motors.
And that's the main thing, is taking care of those customers. All new cars cost the same regardless of where you buy it. We get a little frustrated sometimes. People come in and want donations for this and that and the other, and then you give them money and you notice they got a car from Crane or something. So, where'd you buy a car? Well, would you go to Crane and ask them to give you $200 for your fundraiser? And they don't, say, what do you mean? Think about it. But anyway, things are great. A lot of exciting things happening in Newport. As you know, George Kell is getting ready to build a new dealership just out by the truck stop, and Benji Harris is going to build one new Ford dealership, 2 brand new dealerships. Those are great things.
Right.
And some other things to follow too. So we're part of a real vibrant community, and it's fun to be here. We always talk about, you and I and Bud, about how much we love Newport and all that, and we do. George Kell is pleased to be a part of a good corporate citizen who tries to help the community, and we make great car deals along the way too.
I guarantee you
that's why we're able to do what we do, is we make pretty good deals, and we really take care of customers when they buy vehicles. Some of the things we do is unbelievable.
John, no doubt, and I think, me being an old car salespeople, everybody knows that, and I think the one thing that sets you guys apart, and we talk about what sets Newport, Arkansas apart, and you see it, embedded in George Kell Motor Company, you take care of the folks. And I mean literally. I mean, if you buy a vehicle from John Pennington, if you need something at 8 o'clock on Sunday night, John Pennington can get it for you. If you need something at midnight, John Pennington's going to be there.
I've done it.
You've done it.
And everybody else up there will too.
Absolutely.
I just left a few minutes ago, and a guy that doesn't live here, and he hasn't bought a car from us, but he was getting one of his cars serviced, and he said, I drive 80 miles round trip. He's from Jonesboro. I drive 80 miles round trip to get my car serviced.
Right.
Because when I call down here, they say bring it in at 8 o'clock between 8 and 8:30. I bring it in between 8 and 8:30. They put it on the rack. They do what they're supposed to do. They don't jack me around. They don't put a bunch of billing stuff on there that didn't need. They just do what I ask them to do at the time I ask them to do it, when they said they would do it. If I go to the other place over in Jonesboro, it could be 2.5, 3 hours.
Right.
I sit there all day long for an oil change.
Yes, sir.
He said, that's why I come over here. And that's why I'm going to buy my next car from you guys. So selling a car is just the first step. It's what you do after that. Anybody can sell one, but after that, that's when the rubber meets the road. And as Tommy Bain, our good friend at another one of your sponsors would say, and it's true.
Absolutely.
You just have to take care of the customer. We do a great job of that.
Hey, talk just a little bit briefly about a new product. I mean, the new pickup truck, the new Yukon. Hey, super duper. And I know we've talked about it on this show, but we got to mention that again.
Well, the 14 trucks have been phenomenal sellers. They really are great trucks, and they're bigger and quieter and stronger, and better gas mileage and all of that. And they've got some rebates on them now. We got new programs that'll be effective all the way through the end of this month. And you can get up to $4,500 rebate on one of them. So, come out and drive one of these new trucks, and I'm just giving you a warning. If you do, you'll probably buy one. The new Yukons and Tahoes are phenomenal. They're great. Quite frankly, there are no rebates on them because you can't get them.
Right.
They're overselling right now. We don't have a Yukon XL on the lot now. They're about 10 weeks out.
Right.
So, we've got people that have had them on order. They're not here yet. I've got a guy in Jonesboro that just wants to know when he's going to get it. I don't know when he's going to get it. And that's a good problem to have, when you're oversold. So come on out and take a look at what we do, and be watching down the road here in about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 months. There'll be brand new dealerships out here, and that'll be fun. And boy, it'll have a nice place for the customers to sit, and You'll never get wet. You'll be able to pull up. You'll go under a covered parking. When it's raining, you'll pull right up. You walk right in. You get your car service. You'll never go outside. It's going to be pretty neat. Because you don't want to get your hair messed up when it's raining. So it's going to be nice. It's going to be really neat for Newport. Both the new dealerships will, and we're looking forward to it. It'll be another way to serve our customer, even better. So it's going to be great. Come out to George Kell, take a look around. Got some great pre-owned cars. We've traded for a lot of trucks. As I said, the 14s have been phenomenal.
Yes.
So we got a lot of 11, 12, 13. So if you want a nice pre-owned truck with low mileage, a lot of warranty left, we got those too. All you got to do is come out and take a look. We'll take care of you.
We have a special guest coming up on the Remember When program, and again, we want to thank George Kell Motor Company and for being the lead sponsor here and helping provide the time for these special guests that we get a chance. But John G., good to see you, my friend.
Good to see
special
you.
Guest on Remember When coming up next. Jackson's Funeral Home and the Jackson family have been serving our friends and neighbors in Jackson County during some of the most difficult times of their lives for nearly 60 years. As the third generation of this family to own and operate Jackson's Funeral Homes, Jan, Rhett, and Jerry consider it the highest honor to be chosen to care for you and your family during times of need. We believe the highest standard of care is achieved when people are given the tools needed to make the most informed decision for the benefit of their family. For us, there's no greater honor than to care for our friends and our neighbors in their time of need. The Jackson's Funeral Homes, the 1900 block of Malcolm Avenue in Newport, phone number 870-523-5822. Surprise, surprise. We're not going to talk about George Kell Motor Company. We're going to interview our new Remember When guest, and it is John G. Pennington. And my good friend, welcome to this program.
Hey, thanks, man. I've enjoyed the ones you've had. Mentioned it earlier, and the one that Bud did was just phenomenal. I've watched it. Well, I'm like you. I can just about say exactly what he's going to say, but boy, what a great life he's had. And quite frankly, he's been a great friend of mine for a long, long time, and I love him.
Yes,
I do.
Sir. I know you do, and he loves you too.
I know he does.
John, listen, we got to get started on this program, and we want to talk about some of the things that maybe most of us don't know about John Pennington. And you know, we're familiar somewhat of the family and so on and so forth, but tell us a little bit about how'd you come into this good earth, and who'd you come in with? Let's talk about that.
You know, one of the first stories I remember my mom and dad talking about when I was old enough to remember was when Mother was pregnant with Bruce and I. She went to the doctor, and at that time they did x-rays. And Dr. Jackson said, "Dorothy, you're going to have twins." She said, "I'm sure not." And he said, "Well, yeah, you are. You're going to have twins." She said, "You better call Wardell and get him up here." And he said, "Too late for that." She said, "Well, I don't want twins." He said, "Well, I'm sorry. You're going to have twins." And Bruce and I were born. He's my little brother. I'm 10 minutes older than he is.
Right.
He hung around for a little while, you know, and then he finally came on out to the good earth. And being a twin is kind of a unique thing. We never looked anything alike. Bruce is so much taller and uglier than I am. And
hey, anything, if you said identical twin and then something that was 180 degrees from that, you and Bruce are 180 degrees
you
from
and I look a lot more like,
yes,
really,
we do.
or me
yes,
and Bud
we
than
do.
Bruce and I.
Yes, we do.
And I always thought he looked like John Candy, the actor, when we were growing up. You know, Bruce weighed almost 300 pounds at one time. And he always looked like John Candy. I always thought, man, he'd be a perfect substitute for him. And then Bruce wanted to be a state trooper, so he lost 130 pounds, and I was sitting in the football stands waiting. I'd lived in West Texas. Sue and I lived in Texas then, and I saw Bruce's wife at that time walking. I said, "Where's Bruce?" And Dad said, "He's right behind his wife." And I said, "I don't see him." He had lost 135 pounds. I didn't know him. I didn't know him. But, growing up, Mom and Dad tell the stories about I learned to read before I ever went to school. Bruce learned about the 6th grade. But they said, they would always say that Bruce would bring the funny papers to me on Sunday morning,
right,
and say, "Read these to me," and I would read the comics to him, and Bruce would just lay there on the ground and laugh.
Is that right?
And I'd read them to him. So I was always a little guy, but I always took up for him, and if people made fun of him and stuff, I'd fight and all that stuff for him. But anyway, being a twin's kind of a neat deal.
Well, most of us don't know that, and there's still a lot of people that probably don't know that you have a twin brother.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those folks that you're selling cars to now, and in your early life, and you had a sister also.
Yeah,
a sister. Talk a little bit about her.
Betty and I look a lot alike.
Right?
She was little and intelligent, like me. Sorry, Bruce. But she, we lost her a number of years ago.
Right.
But she was a little live wire, and we had a lot of fun growing up. She one time took us to school, got to drive the car to school, and it was late. She had to put on makeup. We got to the parking lot at school, and I walked in the front door, and Mr. Mullins said, "Come here." I said, "Good morning, Mr. Mullins." He said, "Where's your belt?" I didn't have a belt on. And he said, "Where's your belt?" And I said, "Well, my sister got to drive today," and he said, No, I don't care who drove. Where's your belt? I said, "Well, the reason I don't have a belt is because he said, "Son, go get your belt." I said, "Well, how am I going to get it, Mr. Mullins?" He said, "Do you not know where you live?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I know where I live." He said, "Go get your belt." So I just took off running, ran from the high school to Congress Street, got my belt, and came back. That's the way it was in the early days.
You got your belt, didn't you?
That's right. And thinking about Newport, one of my earliest memories is the old Coca-Cola bottling plant on Beach Street, which is right across from Sherwin-Williams. My grandmother and grandfather worked there. And my grandmother had the job of looking for broken bottles. She sat on a stool in front of a fluoroscope, and about a dozen bottles would come up and stop, and she would look at those bottles, and if everything was okay, they'd go back down, and then they'd go down the conveyor, and then they'd get filled with Coke and all that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, well, that's a neat job, because every now and then she'd get up and run and go grab a bottle and throw it in a box and break it.
Is that right?
That's what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be a bottle breaker. I want to get paid for breaking bottles. But I thought that was the neatest job. Yeah. And I'd pick out a bottle on that thing, and I'd watch it go all the way around the thing. We'd get the syrup in it, the carbonated water, and it'd go around, all this stuff, get the lid put on it, and they'd go put it in a wooden case.
Right.
And then I'd ask my grandfather, John Robinette, who I'm named after, "Can I have that soda?"
Soda, you gotta get a soda.
Can I have that soda?
Yes,
and he let me have it. Boy, I'd drink that hot Coke back there, blow through your nose.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good old day. And another story, I rode my bicycle to Headley's drugstore, and Miss B. Knopp was in there. And I wanted a Mounds candy bar. And I went in there, and I got it, and I put a dime on the counter. They were a nickel. And I started walking out. She had given me a nickel back. And I started walking out, and I was opening that Mounds candy bar. She said, "John, they're 2 for a dime, today only."
Did you get the other?
I said, "Today only?" She said, "Yeah, only today." And I said, "Golly," so I handed that nickel, and I got another one. And I got down to the Newport Bakery Company where Chuck Coe's gun shop, and the light came on. A nickel a piece or 2 for a dime. That embarrassed me so bad I didn't go back for about a week. That's a true story.
Is that right?
Yeah. Math wasn't my strong point.
How old were you, 24, 25?
It was about 2 months ago. Yeah.
About 2 months ago.
Yeah, it was last month.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But I remember all that, and boy, and all of y'all remember, some of you don't, Ben, but, Front Street in the day, you had PK Homes and the Star Clothing Company, and the Lucky Dog sales started at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you'd go out there and get, all those deals, and they had coffee and donuts, and all the guys, the Frank Pleggies, the John Miners, all those people Jeff Ellis, all those people that we looked up to, they were the guys that, are here. They were all there, and there you were at 4 in the morning before school started.
Yes, sir.
Getting you a sweater. Lance Allworth was there. Jim Collier was there. They signing autographs and stuff. It was really neat times, boys. Really neat. just amazing.
Well, downtown was just a busy bee place.
Yeah.
And just and like you mentioned, the stores, and I mean drugstores and ladies fashion
Grimes
stores.
drugstore,
Yes.
and all those on Front Street, Holland Monday Shoes, and all those places, But times have changed in rural America. Things, you don't have central business districts much anymore. You have big box stores and things,
sure.
and that's the way the world goes. But it was a fun time to grow up, and growing up here and playing football, and boy, one of my best memories, thinking about that was that last Thanksgiving Day game, 1968, and we squeaked by, and I've mentioned it 1,000 times, 46-0. And I asked Coach Counts, about a minute left, and they'd had the B-teamers and everybody playing it. I said, Coach, I've been a lineman my whole life. Can I just run the ball one time? Will you let me run the ball one time? And he just said, have a seat, has-been.
It was over, wasn't it?
It was over. Yeah, it was over for me. And then I was trying to be big. I got up to almost 190 pounds. 189 is the most I ever weighed, and I weigh 159 now. And I kept thinking, I'm going to get tall like Bruce, and I'm going to be able to play maybe small college ball. And there was a coach who had come here to try to recruit Roger Brand, who ultimately went to Fayetteville.
Yeah, played for the Hogs.
And we had a pretty good game against West Memphis. We ran some trap blocks and stuff, and I had a pretty good game. And the coach was looking at those 16-millimeter films, and you can't tell much about anything. He said, "Where's 64?" And I'm back there at the back. He said, "Stand up, son." I said, "I am standing up, Coach." And so I told him, I said, "Why did you ask about me?" He said, "Well, you can't tell how big somebody is." He said, "You're just a typical little high school football player." And I said, "Well, that's my twin brother. He's 6 feet. I'm going to be that tall." And he gave me his card, and he said, "When you're 6 feet tall, call me." I didn't ever call him.
Didn't get a chance to call, did you?
I never got 5'6", barely. I just thought I was 6 feet, I guess.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I go, after high school, I go to Arkansas State. I always wanted to go to Nebraska. I don't know. I always wanted.
Nebraska?
I don't know. I'd never been there. I always wanted to go to the University of Nebraska. Well, Bruce said, "Don't go to Nebraska. Go to Arkansas. Go with me one semester and help me." I always had to help Bruce, So I get over Arkansas State, get involved in a fraternity, and had never left. But I didn't come home that first semester because I got involved in the fraternity and everything, and I lost 30-something pounds that first semester because I wasn't trying to be big anymore. And when I walked in the door at Christmas, Mother said, "Son, what's wrong? What's happened to you? What's wrong?" I said, "Mother, what are you talking?" Yeah. Money said, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Something's wrong." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You look horrible." I'm still wearing the same clothes I didn't have, they're all day. I didn't look very good, but, I just got back to where I should have been to start with. But Mother thought I was sick because I lost all that weight.
College being a fun time. I know we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but I want to get back to your high school days and being here in a moment, check on time there, and I don't know if we're close to a break or not, but I remember this, and I don't know that people will remember. You played in a couple of bands, rock bands, or I don't know what, garage bands, whatever we call them back in the day.
Yeah, rock and roll band.
Yeah, rock and roll band. Drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you sing any? Were you a singer?
The only song I ever sung was when I played with Doug Adams and that band. Later on, I sang "Hey Joe," Jimi Hendrix song.
Okay.
That's the only one. I wasn't a vocalist.
Okay.
I was a pretty good drummer in the day.
You were a great drummer. Tell us about the bands. Who were the bands?
Well, the first band I was in was with Bud Black.
Yeah.
You know him?
You do.
And Eddie Albright and Bobby Long. We had a little band, and it was called the Continentals.
Continentals.
And
I remember the Continentals.
I remember we played at the high school cafeteria one time, and everybody liked us pretty good. And there was a guy who played in the marching band. He was a snare drummer. He didn't play trap sets or anything, but he got mad at me, and he said he could play the drums better than I could. And I said, "Well, you probably can. You taking lessons and all that. I'm just natural, man." So anyway, his name was Bobby Fife, I think. Was that right? And anyway, we ended up going to a place, Sims out here, and they had some drums set up, and he played and then I played, and everybody agreed I was better than him. Boy, he didn't like it.
Is that right?
But I used to sit in my bedroom. What happened was there was a boy came to Newport, and he played the drums when I was in the 6th grade. And I really thought that was cool, and I didn't have any drums, but I'd sit and listen to music, and I had an ottoman and a basket and some other stuff, and I just practiced beating on stuff. And I think my mother and father finally said, "We're going to have to get the boy some drums. He's going to beat all the furniture to death." So they got me a set of drums from Tommy Williams, Dr. Williams. Son. Had a set of Gretsch drums. And I got those, and I added to them over the years, and played with Bud and them for a little while. Then Doug and them asked me to come play with the questions, and we did that, and we had some pretty good times. We played at Harding College one time, and we really thought we were something. We were playing a bunch of Led Zeppelin stuff, and they had an overhead projector with some mineral oil and some food coloring in it. Man, it had all these amoebas and protozoas going. I thought, I'm big time now, boy. Yes, we played at Walnut Ridge. We played in Little Rock and different places. And I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. There are a lot of bands. Remember they had the Mystic Blues here,
sure.
Psychedelic Six. Every town had
lots of talent back then, and just lots of just local guys, local high school guys that played bands. And I think you mentioned Freeman Travis earlier. And
Warrior, he played in a bunch. Yeah, Steel Wind and a bunch of Gib Ponder. He had a perfect pitch. There are a lot of people around here who could play a lot of instruments and do a lot of things. And you'd have a dance at the hut, one band was playing, and he'd say, hey, y'all want to come play? Another band take over for a little while and play a little music.
Absolutely.
And it was a lot of fun times in Newport. And boy, same thing I guess they do now, but boy, you'd circle Dog and Suds, and then you'd go back by Jackson, and then you'd come back by here and there and say, make that trip, back around, back around, back around.
Yes, sir.
Just
fun times, wasn't it?
My dad would give us $4 on Monday for gas. We had a 57 Chevrolet, and gas was 28 cents. So you get 16 gallons of gas, and if you're driving around, you'd say, hey, man, give me $1 for gas. Well, you get 4 gallons.
Yes, that's right.
So, it hardly ever buy gas. We go to Palmer's Gulf, pull up in there, and get some gas, and keep going, baby. Just keep it running. That was the good times, man. I mean, everybody would circle around at the Dairy Queen. Everybody put their radios on WLS, Chicago, and listen to the same radio station. Everybody's
89.
Yeah, and I remember when 8-track tape players came out, I said, that's the
Those were cool. Yeah.
First one I saw was over at E. Kimmy Nutroff's house. That's Mike Fortune. Say
it again.
E. Kimmy Nutroff. That's Mike Fortune backwards. He said, you got to come see this thing we got. It's an 8-track player. I didn't know what it was, but anyway, I thought, that's it, and there'd be anything better than that. Well, then they went to cassettes.
Yes, sir.
I said, that's the end of that. We're there.
Fancy.
Utopia.
It
Nothing better. And then they went back to round disc, and I said, we made a full circle. We're back to round disc. We're back to it. But boy, Newport was such a great place to grow up in. Congress Street, me, Stanley Davis, Jimmy Elliott, Andrea Elliott, Pam Rollins, Janie Blagg, Junior Baker, James Harvey Gilmore, Sherman Black. I mean, some of those guys, my mother called them hoods.
Really?
You can't run with those hoods.
Yeah.
And you can't go to the farm drive-in. You can stand on the other side of the street, Congress Street and State. Don't you cross the street. There's hoods over there. They playing that rock and roll music. I could hear it, but I just couldn't see it.
We got a lot of stuff to cover. We need to take a break. Visit with John G. Pennington, and we've got great stories coming up. We'll be back right after this. Jackson's Funeral Home and the Jackson family have been serving our friends and neighbors in Jackson County during some of the most difficult times of their lives for nearly 60 years. As the third generation of this family to own and operate Jackson's Funeral Homes, Jan, Rhett, and Jerry consider it the highest honor to be chosen to care for you and your family during times of need. We believe the highest standard of care is achieved when people are given the tools needed to make the most informed decision for the benefit of their family. For us, there's no greater honor than to care for our friends and our neighbors in their time of need. The Jackson's Funeral Homes, the 1900 block of Malcolm Avenue in Newport, phone number 870-523-5822. With John G. Pennington, and John, no doubt a good life for you. And start out, you talk about a lot about growing up over on Congress Street. You mentioned a lot of those folks, and what was it like? I mean, what did you guys do? Like when you were 7, 8, 10 years old? I mean, what y'all do?
Well, just like every other kid in that day and time, man, everybody got out at night. When school was out and summertime came, you'd play out, you'd play kick the can and Red Rover, and you just sit and talk and play, and then about 9 o'clock, or 10, your parents would check, make sure you're okay, and you just played outside till you just got worn out. We chased lightning bugs, and we shot BB guns, and we just played and had fun, and rode bicycles. You know, a little hill over there behind my house. We called it Daredevil Hill. Boy, I thought it was like the Rocky Mountains, like Pikes Peak.
Yes, sir.
And boy, you get on your bicycle and go down it. It made a sharp turn at the end, and there were some beehives in a hedgerow down there. If you didn't make the turn, you were in trouble. And in the 4th grade, Bruce was trying to make the turn, and I guess he hit my bicycle or something anyway, but he fell over and broke his leg, and he was in a body cast for like 4 months.
Wow.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. And
How old were y'all?
I guess about the 4th grade, 4th or 5th grade. 4th grade.
Yeah.
He broke his leg. He was in a body cast, and it was in the summer, and he had to be laid up in that old plaster cast and all that stuff.
He wasn't a happy camper.
He was not. But, you know, playing back there, and Mr. Buddy Timms he grew worms back there. He had a worm farm.
Okay.
And it was a commercial place to grow fishing worms.
Wonder how many folks remember that. That's a good one.
That was kind of neat, you know, and boy, you'd go back, it looked like a boat dock sitting on the ground, is what it looked like. It had slips where they had different kind of worms and different size worms, and they grew those worms and then they washed them. They had big tin basins, big galvanized basins with water, and they'd wash those worms off and put them in those little, they wasn't styrofoam then, they were paper cups.
Right.
And they put lids on them, you know, and they sold them at like Keaty's.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It was a neat time, and I'd go down there and watch those people, you know. I thought they made worms. I didn't know what they were doing, but it was really, really neat. And, you know, I went to work for Mr. Keaty. I worked for him for 2 years running that ice plant and delivering ice. And he told me one time when we started delivering ice, you'd put 8 10-pound bags in a canvas bag and then fill that truck up with those 80-pound bags and put a big old heavy tarp over it.
Okay.
We didn't have a refrigerated truck. Well, you had to go to Possum Grape and have to go to Swifton and all that, and it's summertime. So Mr. Keaty, being the man that he was, there could be 10 segments on Mr. Keaty.
Absolutely.
He said, "Sonny, I've already taken care of it. You can drive as fast as you want. Don't worry about it. Just go."
Just go.
I was going toward the Blue Bridge one time, and I was probably going 70. Had 3 on the tree on a 283 Chevrolet. Man, that thing would bark in 3 gears. And I was going down through there, and this policeman, I think it's E.O. Shepard, pulled me over. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I got this ice back in the back. I'm going to Possum Grape. It's going to melt." And he said, "Son, you can't be driving that fast." I said, "Well, Mr. Keaty told me that he took care of it, that you all knew about it." Because he said, "That's not a fact. No.
Mr. Keaty didn't take care of it, did he?"
No. So anyway, I eased on through Newport until I got on the open road. But I thought he was telling me the truth. Boy, he was something else. He'd knock on that door of that ice plant,
right.
And here it is, August, 110 degrees, 80% humidity. I'd open that door. I had on a fur hat, you know, and so I open that door, my glasses would fog up, and he'd say, "60 bags, Henry's Mercantile. Don't look back for wood, coal, or water." I'd say, "Okay, Mr. Keaty," and he'd repeat everything.
Is that right?
Everything. Drove me nuts. But I worked for him 2 years, and he said, "Sonny, the difference in working here and in other places, they're going to cut you off at 40 hours. You can work every one of them in a week if you want to." And I just about did.
Is that right?
Yeah, $1.75 an hour he paid me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, the ice plant, tell us where that was.
That's up by Gillum's, where the laundromat is now. There's a laundromat next to Gillum's.
Okay.
And you'll see a little concrete pad right next to the laundromat, be on the east side of the laundromat right there. There's a little concrete pad.
Okay.
And that thing made ice, had a big hopper in it, and it'd make ice and break and it'd fall in that hopper. You put the bags underneath it and hit a switch and it'd fill those bags up. You'd twist them, put a copper wire around them with a little thing and twist them.
Okay.
And then you'd stack them up in there until he knocked on the door. And then here you'd go.
You're in there kind of cold in there, wasn't it?
Oh, it was great. But I'd get kind of cold, you know, and I'd get out to warm up, and there I'd be sitting on the front of that ice plant in August. People would go by and say, "Look at that crazy guy." You know, I'd have on a sweatshirt.
Absolutely,
with a hood,
yeah.
You know, but I was.
You needed it, didn't you?
They say, "Who is that guy?" You know, I was trying to thaw out. But that was a lot of fun working for him, and I learned a lot about life and a lot about Cincy. Boy, Mr. Red Miles, and again John Miner and Lockwood Burkett, like the park's named after, and all that kind of stuff. Those people hung around there all. Charlie McClendon. I mean, Keaty's was the place to be, and I got to be there every day. Yeah, it was sporting goods store. Yeah, and it was just that was every boy's dream to go to Keaty's, just to go shop. But I got to work there,
right,
and made a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, he sold baseball gloves, baseball equipment, football stuff,
hunting, fishing,
motorcycles at one time.
Yeah, sold Hondas. Me and Tommy Red put Hondas together, and they come in a crate, and all you had to do is put the front tire on them, hook the lights up, the blinkers and that kind of stuff, and then go get like a dime's worth of gas so you could drive it around. And I got to drive all from the little Cub 50 all the way up to the big boy.
I had a Cub 50.
Yeah, and I told my daddy one time, I said, I'm going to get a motorcycle. And he said, no, you're not. You're never going to have a motorcycle as long as I'm alive. I said, when I get to be 21, I am. He said, no, you're not. Well, I'm 63 and I ain't had one yet.
Still don't have one.
And I'm not going to.
I don't blame you.
He said, he told me one time, he said, if I didn't love you, I'd buy you 2 of the biggest ones they make. But you're not going to have a motorcycle as long as I'm alive.
That's good.
So, that's good. I ain't got one. I ain't going to get one.
Not going to get one either,
no,
are you?
No.
Hey, let's talk just a little bit. We mentioned earlier about you guys beating Batesville the last, I guess the last homecoming game was, and capped off a 10-0 year, an undefeated year. And, of course, all of us are sports people. Everybody loves sports in Newport, Arkansas, and great tradition. Number 64, and talk a little bit about that season and what that meant to you, and maybe talk about the coaches or some of the players. We don't want to leave anybody out. I mean, I've got the list of players right here in the annual. And I know this: if you look at it, you play 10 ball games, you only had 2 teams that scored more than 0, 6, or 7. Yeah. You had a 0, a 0, a 0, a 0, a 0, a 6, a 7, a 7. And then a 14 and a 20. And of course, you beat Forest City 33-20, and you beat Jonesboro 19-14. You beat West Memphis 14. Yeah. Talk a little bit about this season.
You know, my junior year when I played with Bud, that was a great football team too. And we had just beaten Forest City, number 1 in the state. They're 27-0, and we thought, man, we got a good team.
Yes.
And we went in the locker room and we got berated. I'm telling you, the coaches made a mistake, and they owned up to it later. They just told us we shouldn't have won. We were lucky, and we weren't as good as we thought we were. So, it just kind of killed us. Yeah. And we didn't win any more after that. But after Bud and Ronnie and all of them graduated, we kind of all got together, the new seniors, and said, no matter what they say, we're going to win. Yeah. We're going to play.
And all good intentions by the coaching staff.
Yeah. They didn't do it on purpose. They just thought the harder you push, make us mad, maybe we'll do better. But it kind of killed the spirit, and we went 4-4-3. But the next year, we started off and played well, and I played between Mike and Roger Brand, and we had, Woo Woo Taylor at the other tackle, and James Eddie Simmons, and we had Shuck Phillips as a quarterback, had Jim Reed Holden and Kearney Blaylock in running backs, and they were juniors, and both made All-State their junior year too. And it was just a great all-around team. We just had I guess part of it was luck that we had such talented running backs and stuff, but all of us up there too, we just had a determination that we didn't want to get beat.
Right.
And we didn't.
No, you didn't.
We didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Roger Brand, you mentioned All-State player, Lewis Collier,
Albert, Terry Dillon, Buddy Connor,
James Eddie Simmons,
just those guys.
Calvin James, Dale Payne, Buddy Connor,
and those guys. I don't know what happened. Some of them we stay in contact with, but the Calvin Jameses and the Hector Heathcoats and those guys, they just kind of disappeared. And it's a shame. I wish we could have a reunion again, and maybe we will one day. Bobby Goss. Bobby Goss. He's a CPA over in West Memphis, and he was the other guard. We just had a great team, and I was so superstitious. I'll never forget this. I would talk to Freeman Travis and Glenn Gay before every game and ask them the same questions. I mean,
really?
Every time. And I'll tell you what, I didn't wear hip pads the first game. Being a pulling guard, I'm kind of short anyway. And those old-fashioned hip pads, you had to buckle them on. Yes, I hated them, so I didn't wear them. Well, about halfway through the first game, the referee came up to me and said, "Son, I can throw you out of this game. You don't have on hip pads." I said, "No, sir, I don't. I left them on the bus." He said, "You better hope I don't ref another game." I said, "I hope you don't." So, no, I hope you don't, because I ain't wearing them. I couldn't stand them.
Is that right?
And he said, "You'll get a hip pointer. You get your hip broke or something." I said, "Well, thank you."
Yeah, I just want to go ahead and mention the rest of the guys that just were seniors: Gary McDonald, Sammy Llewellyn, Paul Holmes, of course, Bruce, David Bradley, Jim Taylor, and John Olette. That's just the guys that are in the annual, and we don't mean to leave anybody out.
No, don't leave anybody out.
No, but boy, and again, I want to talk a little bit about football. I want to talk about Mike Brand, because you mentioned Mike. Mike was a junior, was a center, and he also went to the University of Arkansas. Good friend then, as good a friend as you have now. Talk a little bit about Mike Brand. Yeah,
boy, I tell you, I hadn't seen him since last night.
Right.
We played together, and one of the best memories about Mike, I can't remember who it was. I don't remember who it was, but they kicked off to us. We break the huddle. We go to the line of scrimmage, and Shuck calls a number, snaps a ball, and I thought it was a running play. In fact, it was a running play, and I was going to this linebacker. Well, I see Mike going backwards, and I think he's going back for a pass block. one of us is wrong. What had happened was the free safety lined up about 10 yards from Mike and started running, and right when Mike snapped the ball, he hit him in the head, knocked him out. He was going backwards, but he was asleep.
Right.
And I caught him out of my eye, and I thought, where's he going? And anyway, they give him the smelling salts and all that kind of stuff. Well, then they bring in PK. He's the backup center, PK Holmes.
Right.
And PK didn't play a whole lot. But anyway, the next play, PK snaps the ball and jams Shuck's fingers because he ain't used to how he snaps the ball.
No.
It was quite a thing there, that first series. But we got through it. But Mike, you know, I love him so much, and we duck hunt together all the time. And he drugged me into playing golf about 40 years ago. Not 40 years. I was 44 when I saw him, so 18 years ago.
Okay.
He drugged me into playing golf, and then he started talking about turkey hunting, and I said, "You've given me enough bad habits. I ain't going." Mike and I started the Bass Club here in 1976 at Pizza Hut when it first opened.
Right.
Me and him and Tony Moore, we started the Jackson County Bassmasters.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. We bought a boat. Mike and I bought a boat 30-something years ago in Helena, and we've still got it.
Really?
Still got the same boat.
Is
Yep.
that right?
We still fish out of it every now and then. Of course, with this golf and this other stuff, you know, you only have a certain amount of time to waste.
Right.
You can't play golf and fish in the same day.
No.
But anyway, he's a dandy boy, and I love him to death. We've had some good times.
Talk a little bit about going to college. You mentioned ASU, and I'd asked you before we got on here, and some of you will remember, some of us that are our age will remember that streaking back during this time, and you graduate from high school 69.
May of 69.
Yeah. And then streaking was kind of big when you were in college. Tell us what you remember about those folks who were streaking over at ASU.
My girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife,
Yes.
and another couple had gone to Paragould to a place to visit.
Okay.
And so we left that place, and on the way back, we listened to the radio, and it says a new college craze sweeping the campuses of the college campuses called streaking. David Ingram was my roommate in the fraternity. I said, "Turn that up." He turned it up. I said, "What is it?" We started listening, and it says that's where guys take their clothes off and run in front of the sorority houses and that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
And I said, "David, we have to do that." And he said, "Why do we have to?" I said, "Because somebody else will do it before we do it."
That's right.
And my sweet little girlfriend, Sue, said, "If you do that, I'm breaking up with you." And I said, "No, I wouldn't blame you either. I wouldn't."
So I'm sure you didn't.
So we get back, take our girls back to their sorority places, and then we made a couple of phone calls to the sorority house so we kind of get a crowd going. And I felt the need for speed.
You did, then.
So I kind of put all my clothes in front of the ring center in the flower bed, and David did too, and here we went.
How'd that go for you?
All I could think about was don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. All I had on red Chuck Taylor low cuts.
Yes, sir.
And a cut-off fraternity jersey. That was it. And a smile. And we went down that street, and the crowd wasn't real big at that time. There was only a few hundred people out there at that time. And then it started building. And I said,
Yes.
"We got to go again." And then we went again, and there was a campus policeman chasing me on one of those little Cushman scooters. It's got the little cover around it. And I ducked under the ATO house, and he was looking away from me, and he said, I see you behind that tree over there. I'm under this porch." I said, "You don't see me."
Yes, sir.
Anyway, he starts driving off, and when he did, I cut out. Man, I went back and got my clothes back on and went back up there, and there's my sweet little girlfriend, Sue, with my fraternity pin, my drop, and my jersey. She broke up with me.
Oh,
And she should have. Yeah, she did.
well, what'd you have to do to get her back?
I begged, man. I groveled, I begged.
Did you promise not to streak again?
I did, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I wasn't going. After that, everybody did it. Man,
Yeah.
It was nothing after that. You know that old slogan, if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes?
Right.
That's the way I felt about it. I've already got people, you'd see people run through classrooms, and I go, has been? That ain't
Done it.
nothing.
Done it.
I got to figure out something else.
Yes, sir.
But then I go through, and I ended up being, president of my fraternity, and I did well. I did better in college than I did in high school grade-wise. And I wanted to go into ROTC. I was a platoon sergeant, and I really liked it. And I took the physical, and Major came out and said, "Come here, Pennington." He said, "Do you know you're blind in your right eye?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, you can't be in the military if you're blind in your eye. You can't be." And I said, well, I think I'd make a good soldier. He said, well, you probably would, but you never will. And I said, well, do I have to take the second semester of military science? He said, yes, sir. You got to.
You got to take that.
So then I knew it wasn't going to be.
I really required, yeah.
Yeah. So then I let my hair grow out. I got me a ponytail. You got pictures of it there. I started letting my hair grow out, and I would raise the flag. I had drill on Wednesday, so I raised the flag every morning to get 2 merits. And then when I went to drill, I get 2 demerits because I had long hair. Yeah.
You even out, didn't you?
That's what it was about. I didn't want.
Sir.
I wanted to pass. I mean,
Yes,
I wanted
sir.
to graduate.
Yes, sir.
And then I left and went to work. After I graduated, I went to work for Houston Natural Gas, August 1st, 1974. And that was quite a deal. And you know, there I was. First day of work, I show up. Tom Newell is the head of the land department. And I've got on the same clothes I had in college. I've got on stacked shoes, dark green wide wale corduroys, a yellow shirt, and a green bow tie, and a corduroy jacket.
You were cool.
That's that picture you'll be showing. I walk in and I said, good morning, Mr. Newell. And he goes, I said, yes, sir. How are you today? And he said, why are you dressed like a clown? I said, sir. He said, why are you dressed like a clown? He said, you think I could send you to West Texas to talk to a rancher dressed like that? I said, well, I mean, that's the kind of clothes we wore. He said, you're not in college anymore, son. So at lunch, we went down to Foley's department store in Houston at the bargain basement and bought me a suit.
Wow.
Double knit, baby.
Double
knit.
Yes, sir.
Got some shoes with a white top on it. I said, boy, I hope I don't run across any of my fraternity brothers anywhere. I look horrible.
Oh, they wouldn't approve of that. They wouldn't approve of that at all, would they?
I know.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Probably need to take another break right here, but we're visiting with John G. Pennington, and I'll promise, folks, we got more good things coming up with the visit here on Remember When. Jackson's Funeral Home and the Jackson family have been serving our friends and neighbors in Jackson County during some of the most difficult times of their lives for nearly 60 years. As the third generation of this family to own and operate Jackson's Funeral Homes, Jan, Rhett, and Jerry consider it the highest honor to be chosen to care for you and your family during times of need. We believe the highest standard of care is achieved when people are given the tools needed to make the most informed decision for the benefit of their family. For us, there's no greater honor than to care for our friends and our neighbors in their time of need. The Jackson's Funeral Homes, the 1900 block of Malcolm Avenue in Newport, phone number 870-523-5822.
Yeah.
Visited with my good friend John G. Pennington, and you talk about being in Houston and talk a little bit about that, or where it went from Houston. How long were you in Houston?
I lived in Houston a year or so. Sue was still in college. She graduated. She moved to Houston with me. Then we went back to West Texas, out to Fort Stockton. Fort Stockton is kind of a unique place. It's stockyards.
Okay.
When I first moved out there, I lived in an apartment, actually in a motel room. The first 10 months I was there, I lived in the same motel room 10 months, and they kicked me out for cooking on a hot plate.
Wow.
I told Sue, of course there were no cell phones at that time or anything, this is the early 70s, and I called her from my room and we were talking. She said, well, what's it like out there? I said, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here.
I imagine.
I mean, it was just flat, man, like the tabletop.
Yes, sir.
But it was, I liked it out there like everywhere I've ever been. So anyway, we did that, and then we came back for a little while, and then went back to West Texas and stayed 5 more years in Midland. And then we moved back, and I went to work for Miller Newell, and for just a little while. And James Morehart, God bless him, and God rest his soul.
Yes, sir.
He wanted me to go to work for the furniture company. I said, nah, for Brown Jordan. I said, no, I really wouldn't want to be interested. And I think I'm going to go back to Texas. Well, anyway, he talked me into going to work for him in the credit department. And I was in the credit department 10 months, and then they promoted me to regional sales manager. I was really selling furniture out of the crowd. I would call you and say, look, you're past due on your bill. We got 6 new designs coming out. If you don't pay your bill, it's not going to get it, and people down the street will. It's not going to be good for you.
Right.
So anyway, Steve Morrison was here at that time. Steve moved to California. I took his place.
Okay.
And then a little bit later on, a few years later, they promoted me to director, and I moved to Suffolk, Virginia. So we moved out there. Stayed out there about 5 years, and during that time I was promoted to vice president of the company. And I started an international division. And I traveled all the time. Bless Sue's heart. We had 2 little children, and one in grade school, one an infant. And I traveled about 180 nights a year. Half the year I was gone. And when you go to the Orient, like if you go to Japan and Thailand and Hong
traveled
Kong.
all over the world.
I've been to 33 countries. Yeah, most of them more than once. But you go you don't go there and come back in a week. You go and stay 4 or 5 weeks. You fly to Japan, and then you go all the way down to Singapore, and then you go to Thailand, Hong Kong, make your rounds.
So you're selling, you're handling accounts and selling.
Yeah,
product?
I set up. Well, yeah, I put in showrooms and hired sales rep forces and helped build plants and all kinds of stuff. Now, I didn't do much of the plant work, but I did in Mexico. We put one in down there, and I speak Spanish, so that helped a little bit. But then I'd get back and rest a little bit, and then I'd go to South America. Then I'd go to Europe, and then I'd come back and do it again. And I've been a lot of places. I guess that's why I'm kind of stodgy now. People want to go do places or go places and do things. Nah, I've already been.
You've done
I just want to go home.
Yeah.
And so, that was a great deal. Then Brown Jordan wanted me to move to California. I was the only officer of Brown Jordan that wasn't in California.
Okay.
And in Virginia.
So is that where the headquarters was?
Yeah, that's corporate headquarters in El Monte, California. Anyway, I kind of instrumental in getting the Virginia plant shut down to get it moved here.
Okay.
I wanted it all to be here.
Right, yeah.
And I know that all the other there's only 3 other vice presidents, and they like Newport Beach. They don't like Newport, Arkansas.
Right.
So I was kind of the outside guy. I lost the battle and won the war, I guess you could say. Absolutely. But I was right in what I was doing. But anyway, I took a buyout from them and didn't want to move to California. I'd moved my children too much anyway, so took a buyout and started Pennington Group.
Right. Yeah.
And started that little company. And the first 2 chairs I ever made are still sitting at B&T Battery.
Is that right?
They bought the first 2 chairs I made.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Keith and Neil did, and they're still there. And that rocked along for a little while, and then I moved along and decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And then got in the car business, and I've been there ever since.
Yes, sir.
And the main thing about it was I got to stay in Newport.
Absolutely.
I could have gone to work for some other furniture companies and things, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay here. I'd already been and done and gone, and I just wanted to be here where my family was and where my friends were, and it's worked out great. Times were tough for a little while, and things happen, and you just got to bow up, man. That's part. As all of us who played football, everybody in this room did. That's part of the lessons of life. You get knocked down, what do? You going to lay there, or are you going to get up and play?
You got to get up.
You get up and go. Absolutely. Every single day is another down. You got to play another down.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm back in Newport, been here for a long time, and I'm not leaving again. For not very long anyway. I did all that traveling, and you mentioned Mike Brand. He and I duck hunt together at a place out at Amigan. That's about as far as I want to get away. I get a little nervous when I get on the east side of Amigan. I'm getting too far from home.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, it's great to be back, and Newport's such a great place, and it's unique because I've told you this before on some other shows. All those places I've been, all those airports I sat in, all those lobbies I sat in, somebody says, "You from Texas? Your accent?" "No, I'm from Arkansas." "Where in Newport?" "Do you know Canister Hodges? Do you know so and so? Do you know?" So everybody knows somebody from Newport. Absolutely, everybody knows somebody from here. It's a great place.
It is. Let's talk a little bit about your family, your kids, your grandkids.
Yeah.
Been married, Sue, for several years. Talk a little bit about your immediate family.
Yeah, Sue and I have been married coming up 39 years, and we have 2 children, my daughter Lindsay and my son John Ward, and they both went to school. They graduated here, went to school at Fayetteville, both graduated up there, did very well, and they both still live there.
Right.
Both of them have little girls.
Yes.
My first grandchild, Lucy, my son's little girl, Lucy Ann, was born in October, and my second little granddaughter, Sloan, was born in January, so they're 3 months apart. And I don't see them nearly as much as I want to because I want to see them every day. But by the contraptions we have now, I get pictures and stuff every day. And it's great. Hopefully down the road there'll be a grandson so the legend can continue. And I told my son last night, I said, "Don't let me put any pressure on you, son."
Yes, sir, buddy.
Buck stops there.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, they're all doing well, and everybody's aware. My little granddaughter
Sloan. I want to talk about Sloan. Yes.
Sloan was born in Fayetteville, and a normal birth, and everything was fine. And a few minutes after that, they took her in to clean her up and warm her up, and all. They noticed that when she got drowsy, she quit breathing, so they started venting her, and she wouldn't breathe on her own. So they airlifted her to Children's in Little Rock and did some work there and discovered she had a very, very rare genetic deficiency called CCHS.
Excuse me.
CCHS, there's about 1,600 actual known cases in the world. So it's extremely rare.
Right.
And really what it is, it's just a gene. She's not sick. She just has a gene that's missing, and when she goes into level 2 sleep, you have 4 levels. If she goes into level 2, she won't breathe. She doesn't have that fuse at level 2.
Okay.
So they trached her. She has a trach.
Right.
And all of her little pictures, you can see a little thing hanging there. And then she has a pacemaker.
Right.
They put a pacemaker on her at 5 days old, and some other things. But she's since, started growing, started doing better and all that kind of thing. And hopefully when she's 4, they'll be able to do what's called a diaphragm pacer.
Right.
And that'll be like a pacemaker for her heart, but it'll be for her diaphragm. So she won't have to have the trach in her throat anymore. So she'll have everything inside of her. There's a little girl in Dallas who is a competitive gymnast who has CCHS, and she has a diaphragm pacer. So with modern science, modern meds, and all those kind of things, Sloan will live pretty much a normal life. She'll have to be careful as she, because she's a special needs. She has special gadgets. I only have one eye.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So everybody's got a little something.
Sure, absolutely.
But she's overcome it, and the family's overcome it. By the way, Luke, Lindsay, and Sloan Briggs are the Arkansas Heart family for the year. They're the surviving family. And May the 10th, they'll be honored in Fayetteville with a big deal and all the money they've helped earn for the Heart Association because of Sloan's pacemaker that she had at 5 days old. So that's quite an honor for them too, and it's to help the Heart Association, help other children. So it's pretty neat to see your kids overcome adversity, do what they have to do, and keep playing the game.
Absolutely.
That's all you can do.
Absolutely. Well, we just need a grandson, don't we?
Yeah.
Got to have that Pennington name, keep on going.
John Ward.
Are you watching?
Or Linda, whatever.
Yeah, sir.
Anyway.
Let me ask you a couple of questions right here, and John Pennington has a very interesting story. And I could sit down and visit with you forever about. I often hear you talk about. I get up on Sunday morning and I've been passing out Bibles for the Gideons, and tell me about that. What is that? Why do you do that?
A number of years ago, Sam Penix, who's no longer with us, at Umstead Church said, "You ever thought about joining the Gideons?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, "Well, think about it." I said, "Well, okay." I didn't think it. I knew who they were because all my travels and stuff, I'd see Gideon Bibles all over the world in every language. So anyway, he talked me into going to a meeting, and then I went to a meeting, and I ultimately joined. And it's an interdenominational group of people, businessmen. It's about 111 years old now that had one purpose, and that's to distribute Bibles around the world, and we do it now in about 100 countries and 100 languages, and every time your heart beats, there's 2 or 3 testaments or Bibles handed. Every time your heart beats around the clock worldwide. 73, 74 million of them a year now. And it's a great organization, and I'm really not worthy to even mention the name of that group, but I've been in it about 20-something years, and I speak in churches, and I hand out testaments at the schools, and all those kind of things. And it's a great organization, and boy, I tell you what, the way this world's running, it's pretty important to put the word out there.
I
you know
guarantee
what I mean?
it is.
It is.
Guarantee it is. Just some quick fire questions, and they can be short answers or they can be long answers, whichever you like, John. And tell me about who influenced you. Who influenced you as a kid or a high school student or maybe in life? Who influenced you along the way?
One part, of course, I always wanted my dad to be proud of me. I always tell him that. I said, all I ever want to do is make you proud of me. I never want to disappoint him. And another one, Mr. Mullins.
Yes.
I always admired him, his service to the country, being a POW. I remember one time and I was in a Lions Club back in the early 80s, and the speaker didn't show up, and somebody said, "Call John Mullins." And they just called, and he just came over and spoke.
Sure.
And he talked about the good old days. He said, the good old days ain't the good old days. The good old days are now. Boy, he talked about America. I was ready to fight a circle saw when I got out of there.
Is that right?
He was a great guy. He meant a lot to me. And the people that you saw along the way, the ones I keep mentioning, the Frank Pleggies and the John Miners. Frank Pleggy taping your ankles, and asking you, have you got your assignments down? You know what you're doing tonight? All those things, all that pride. You wanted to be a winner. You wanted people to respect you. You didn't want to disappoint anybody.
Right.
You hated to. I just shuddered at the thought that somebody might be disappointed in me. I didn't want somebody. I'm wound like this. If I'm in a room of 500 people and 499 of them like me, I got to get to that. I cannot stand the thought of somebody.
You
just
need,
bothers
you
me.
need that other guy.
I
agree. Yeah.
I'm just the way I'm wound.
Right.
And I just never wanted any of those guys to think bad about me or disappointed in me or for doing anything. Of course, I did some things I shouldn't have done, and sometimes I got caught, sometimes I didn't, because I'm human. But my dad, he was always perfectly honest. If he said, you go do this and get caught, here's what's going to happen. But then he would say, next Tuesday, I'm going to buy you and Bruce a car. Well, you couldn't sleep Monday night because you're getting ready to get a car.
Is that right?
It was whatever he said never failed, ever. Never. Not in my life.
To the bank.
Whatever he said was the gospel. And I subscribed to it, and I believed in it, and I tried not to do anything to make him disappointed in me.
You mentioned a while ago about not really liking to get away from Newport and because it is home and you've been around the world. Yeah. Is there any place that you've never been that you would like to go if you could? I mean, any place you...
No, I'd like to go, but I went to school in Spain.
Right.
When I was a sophomore, I think. I went to school in Spain for a while. And I really loved that country, and I love their culture and their people, the way they looked at life and all that. I'd like to go back to Spain. I can't think of any place that I really would like to go. I don't want to skydive.
Right.
I did some snorkeling. I really don't want to scuba dive. I don't want to tempt God. I'm not going to jump out of, as Major Raleigh said, a perfectly good airplane.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to do that. That's not something and I've been so lucky in my life and so blessed that I got to go to all those places. Rio de Janeiro, and you talk about Geneva, Switzerland, and Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Hong Kong. I've been all those places, and it's, I see people talking about wanting to go. Well, I was blessed. I got to go.
Right.
Sue and I sat center court at Wimbledon. Watched John McEnroe play.
Really?
We've done a lot.
See, that's interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I didn't know.
McEnroe was playing Mats Wilander, and he was getting beat. And we're sitting 2 rows from the grass. We're right in the middle of this thing. And you remember McEnroe? He cussed and everything.
Yeah.
He turned out. He grabbed the racket by the head and he said, "Does anybody want to finish this blankety blank match?" And I'm thinking, "I will." I ain't scared. I'm making Sue's like, sit down.
Sit down.
We're sitting all those proper English people,
Yes, sir.
Quiet, please. And we're starting. I'm wanting to do the wave or something, get something started here. But we had a great time there, and doing those kind of things that most people don't get a chance to do, and it was great, And I don't have any. I have no regrets, and I guess that's as my life moves forward. And I'm 63, so I'm certainly on the downhill path.
Right, yeah.
But I don't have any regrets, and I don't have anything that I wish I'd have done. I've done about everything. Maybe that's streaking deal, but maybe I shouldn't have done it. But everything I ever attempted to do or wanted to do, I've pretty much done it. And so I don't have any of those burning desires. I just want to be here, continue to do what I do, enjoy good health, enjoy my friends, play golf, duck hunt, go fishing. That's all I want to do, man. And I got a great place to do it. And in the middle of all that, if somebody just really needs an automobile, I'm the guy.
You are the guy.
We do, and that's a great thing about being here. It's a wonderful place to live, a lot of family, a lot of friends, and man, I'm not leaving again.
When Bud and I started talking about doing this program, we wanted to talk to people who have interesting stories and have a love for our little old town. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt we have a hit. And we can say that you will forever be not the first guest, but the first. It's kind of a family deal.
Yeah.
First, second generation to be on the Remember When program, having done your dad number one, and then we've had some great guests. It's always a pleasure to get to sit down and visit with you. You've got great stories. Yeah. I love how you love Newport, Arkansas.
Well, I do, and boy, when I was gone, I missed it. I'd call Mike Brand and Harry McAdams and some of those guys who were still here the first time we moved away. What are y'all doing? Well, we're sitting over at so-and-so's house. What are you doing? I'm just sitting at home. I don't have any friends yet. I just got out here, Golly, I wish I was back there.
Yes, sir.
And never lost touch, always stayed in touch with them but always missed it. And I, a lot of people have never, the ones that complain about Newport the most are the ones who've never been anywhere but here.
Right.
Because they don't know.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've said that before. You don't know how good Newport is because you don't. It's like if you drink water all the time, you don't know what milk tastes like.
Right.
You go try milk, you might like water better. the thing is, it's a great place. And I can tell you because I've been a lot of places. Boy, a lot of places. Lived a lot of places. This is the best. I love it here.
John G., love you, my friend.
Love you, buddy.
Boy,
and your buddy, too.
Yes, sir. Bud Black got to sit in with us.
Yeah.
He doesn't get down the office.
Nowhere, man.
That's right. And we want to thank everybody for all the great comments about Remember When. John G. Pennington, he's one of a kind, and he is the guest on Remember When.